Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be covering another mystery sort of case, and today I'm going to be covering the case of a child. So as I said in my previous video, if you have any triggers of like hearing about children's cases or you don't like hearing about children's cases, then I will be covering some more cases that aren't to do with children and that are to do like with adults. But yeah, if you don't want to hear anything to do with children and like missing children, then just click out this video. But this is going to be a case of a child, and I just want to say thank you so much for the love and the support that I've had on my first mystery case that I done on my channel, which was last week or the week before, and I just didn't expect that much like feedback. So yeah, thank you so much, and it really means a lot to me because this is something that I'm really excited and passionate about. So I'm going to get into this case. I'm really hot already. So today's case is all about a little girl called Haleigh Cummings, and Haleigh Cummings was 5 years old and she went missing on February the 10th 2009. Now the day she disappeared was actually the day of Caylee Anthony's funeral. If you're very familiar with missing persons cases, or if you live in the Florida area, then you might have heard of the Caylee Anthony case. It's actually known that Haleigh Cummings actually disappeared on the day of Caylee Anthony's funeral, which some people find really actually quite strange. The fact that to start with, Caylee Anthony was actually a missing person and then she was actually found dead. If you'd like me to cover the case of Caylee Anthony, then let me know, but that is quite a popular case here on YouTube, so I just wanted to bring light to this case as I don't feel like there's actually much about this case like on YouTube that I've heard of. And when I found like my research and everything, I was going through it, like I couldn't understand why no one wanted to cover this case more. The fact that this little girl is still out there, and it's a very heartbreaking case. So I'm just going to get into it. I've got my huge notebook on my lap because there is a lot of facts to this story and this story is quite long, so I just wanted to make sure that I've got it in front of me in case like I forget any names or anything like that. So yeah, I'm just going to get into the case. So Haleigh, if I get confused and say Caylee in this case, then I mean Haleigh. But Haleigh actually, she was born August the 17th in 2003, making her 5 years old on the day of her disappearance. And the day I'm filming this, she actually disappeared 9 years ago today. So that's really, really creepy. So she actually disappeared on February the 10th, 2009. So she was 5 years old when she went missing. She actually was living in Satsuma, Florida, and this is where she went missing from. Haleigh had blonde hair and brown eyes, and it was also believed that she always wore a little pink bauble in her hair. And another name for her is the girl with the little pink bauble. That I found that at the end of like each article that I read. She was 3 foot tall and she weighed 39 pounds. She was actually last seen at her father Ronald Cummings' house, and she was seen here on February the 9th 2009. And as I was saying earlier, an Amber Alert was actually issued for Haleigh on the day of Caylee Anthony's funeral. So to say that obviously she had gone missing. She was actually believed to have been with her father's girlfriend at the time, who was 17-year-old Misty Croslin. When Haleigh went missing, the media apparently went crazy. The fact that there had been another missing girl, especially on the day of another little girl's funeral, they literally went crazy for this story. And also, may I add, Misty, Ronald's girlfriend, I believe Ronald was a lot older than Misty. She was only 17 years old, and they actually lived together, so she actually lived with him and the children. She was babysitting Haleigh and her younger brother Ronald Jr. the night that Haleigh went missing. So Misty told the investigators that she went to sleep around 10 p.m. after doing her laundry. Then she woke up during the night to go toilet, and then she noticed there was a light on in the kitchen. She also noticed that the back door was open by a cinder block, and there was no sign of Haleigh also. Investigators became very suspicious of Misty because she actually told them that first of all Haleigh was sleeping with her in the big bed. Then she told the investigators that she was actually asleep on the floor, so they sort of didn't really know what to believe at this point. And when I say sleeping on the floor, I don't mean like literally just on the floor. They apparently had a mattress on the floor for her. One thing I found quite interesting is that while Caylee Anthony's story was focused on a middle-class family, the world inhabited by Cummings and Croslin built out a cast of seemingly less sympathetic, shady characters, violence and drugs. So what that means is that this family was all about like drugs, and they obviously seemed quite sort of rough to the media, whereas the Anthony family seemed a little bit more well off, I suppose. It's also said that when the TV stations interviewed Misty, she just stared into the screen like she was in a drug sort of stupor. Like she literally just stared there, and like she just like carried on like just staring into the screen like I'm doing now. Sorry, that's really creepy. The reason the children lived with Ronald is because he actually had custody of his 2 children due to their mother Crystal actually having drug problems. So he actually won the custody battle. He also won it because Crystal had actually failed to turn up to the custody hearing. And it was also believed that Crystal met Ronald when she was also underage, like Misty, and it was also believed that Ronald had hit her a few times and also hit little Haleigh as well. Investigators cleared Ronald, who was working the night of Haleigh's disappearance, and cleared him of any involvement. But later said that other people were present at the house the night Haleigh disappeared, including Misty's brother Hank Croslin Jr. and her cousin Joe Overstreet. Sorry guys, my camera decided to cut out, so that is why I'm just adding this in. Reporters apparently just left the scene and sort of just left this case, and apparently this case is literally just sort of like left unsolved. The case is actually rarely mentioned, and the only place it's really mentioned in is local newspapers. April the 15th, 2010, Sheriff Jeff Hardy announced Haleigh was most likely dead and that the case was being worked as a homicide. The Sheriff's Office released a statement saying the ongoing investigation has minimised the likelihood that Haleigh's disappearance is in the work of a stranger. So what they're saying with this is that it's most likely someone that knows Haleigh is like the reason for her death, and that those who know what happened still won't tell investigators. Apparently, although murder was like the strongest sort of indication of this whole case, because there's no body found or any evidence or anything, there's no evidence to bring anyone in and like charge them of anything. So that's another thing that's literally so sad with this case, because nothing has been found. And when you think about it, this happened in 2009 and it's literally like 9 years later and there's nothing been found. Until a body is found or a killer is brought to justice, Haleigh's family continues to wait for answers. Last year, the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children released an updated age progression photo of Haleigh at the age of 12. I will just link that on the screen here so you can see it. So this is quite interesting, this next part. So Misty, Ronald, Hank Jr. and 2 others were arrested in January 2010 for trafficking in pain pills during an undercover sting operation that had been ongoing for months. They all actually pleaded guilty and they're all serving lengthy sentences in prison till this day. I know that obviously I don't get like thousands of views on my videos, but if you sort of know of this case, or if you maybe live in America and you know anything, then I will leave the number on the screen or in the description box down below of the Putnam County Sheriff's Office if you have any information linked to this case. People said that the couple did drugs, their caravan was filthy, and neither knew how to care for a child as well. So that's one thing I should have pointed out, that they actually lived in a caravan. So when you think about it, to get out that kitchen door, she'd have had to open a caravan door. So I feel like in a way, a child could have easily opened a caravan door, but I feel like that would be an easier door to open than like a front door or like a kitchen door like in a house. Also, a bit of background about Misty. She was actually from a broken home and her parents were actually charged with crack cocaine offences. And as a teen, Ronald had been arrested countless times for drug possession. And I'm just going to read you through some questions that people sort of asked in like the media and that. So I'm just reading them off my notes. So one was, why had Ronald left his son and daughter with a teen that was rumoured to have a drug habit? Where was Haleigh's mum? Because although she didn't have custody of the kids, like surely, like where was she? Like why isn't she mentioned in this case at all? When I was doing my research, there's literally nothing like saying about her, like worrying about her daughter or anything like that. It just confused me, because even if you don't live with your daughter, you still wonder what had happened to her. I just don't get it. Crystal also claimed he had punched her in the back of the head and also hit Haleigh. He backhanded her, she said. Of course, Ronald denied this. Now this I found quite interesting as well, because it also showed, although earlier I said about him hitting Crystal and Haleigh, The fact that he also hit Crystal in the back of the head showed he had a really strong temper, and that's just, especially like the fact that he hit his kid, is like backhanded her, like that sounds very like violent. As I was saying just a second ago about the caravan door, so police investigators said that there was no way a 5-year-old girl could have opened the caravan door by herself, and she wouldn't have got far before police found her alive or dead. And when you think about that, see, little, like, kids, like, make friends with anyone, don't they? Now, I feel like if she had got out and she'd done it on her own, she could have just, like, befriended a stranger and they could have just kidnapped her. So I don't really think I believe that much, what the police said. Because, like, look at Madeleine McCann. They never found, like, Madeleine McCann, so I don't get that. Now, here's a little like tip off. So days after the disappearance, a woman said she actually spotted Haleigh in a restaurant miles away in Tennessee. She said Haleigh had been with a man driving a red Toyota and didn't seem to want to be there, but the tip off led nowhere. Then the police got another lead. Living in a neighbouring caravan to Ronald and Misty's was a known sex offender. In 2001, he'd been convicted of promoting a sexual performance by a child. He'd been listed as a sexual predator, and he'd also been put on a nightly curfew and wore an electric tag. Sorry if I keep looking down. I'm just trying to get everything right because I don't want to get anything wrong in this case. Well, like in any case, but I'm still getting used to like memorising all this information. The night that Haleigh disappeared, the man didn't meet his curfew, so when they checked the GPS, his tag actually showed he hadn't been anywhere near their caravan, so he was actually ruled out of this whole thing and just cleared. Weeks on, Ronald actually proposed to Misty. Now the police actually found this really bizarre, and they like found it like very suspicious because apparently when you're married to someone you can't testify against them. They found that maybe the reason why they'd all of a sudden like got engaged, and the police obviously thought maybe like were they hiding something, like had they like killed her and then, or maybe one of them had killed her and one of them had, like, I don't know, hid the body or something, and then obviously they couldn't like testify against one another. Time went on and more rumours spread. Could it be drug related? Had she been taken to pay off debt or even sold? Another thing I thought of was that sex trafficking. No, is it sex trafficking? What's it called? I think it's sex trafficking that you get in the United States. We don't really get it here in the United Kingdom. But that's one thing I did think about because I've heard of that so many times, especially in these types of videos, especially about like children and like younger people. They insisted she hadn't been, but then Misty made an unsuspected claim. She said she'd known what had happened to Haleigh all along, but she was too terrified to say. She said that day, Feb 2009, Ronald had argued with Misty's relative about the ownership of a gun. Later, when Ronald was at work, the relative had shown up with another family member. The two men had turned their caravan inside out looking for the gun. Failing as a replacement, they took Haleigh, bundling her into a black bag and promising to drown her in a nearby river. Officers soon discovered the two men had been in the area that day, but no evidence could be found against them. The police had nothing, no body, no clue, no lead. So this case is obviously like really like upsetting, and I'm just going to get into my theories of what I think happened to Haleigh. I've got a couple. I think the less likely one, maybe she could have run away with the mum, for the fact that we haven't heard anything to do with the mum. She hasn't been like mentioned in this whole story at all, this like whole case. Maybe she could have run off with the mum that night and they've like never been seen again. But then again, surely the mum would also count as missing as well. Another thing, maybe the men could have taken her that were relatives of Misty, and they could have drowned her, as they said, and then they could have hid the body, and that's maybe why they never found the body. But then I truly believe that it has something to do with Ronald and Misty. I think perhaps, like I was saying earlier, they were very heavily involved in drugs. And when I was reading this online, so many people were saying this as well, how involved they were with drugs. And I truly believe that perhaps Haleigh had maybe she'd taken some, or like there'd been like some sort of accident and something had got into her system and then she died, and then they just hid the body. Maybe they hid it very far away. Maybe they got Misty's relatives involved and may hide her body and never speak of it again. But I just think that this case is so sad, and especially when it's the case of a little girl, like a child, I just think that's so heartbreaking, especially the fact her like the other family members don't know what happened, and obviously clearly someone in this whole case does. And like I was saying earlier, I just don't understand why there's hardly, like, I don't get why this case isn't spoken about more. I just don't get that. Sorry, this case, I feel like it's long, but I feel like it's not as long as the other one, and I feel like this video isn't as great as my last video. I feel like it's a bit all over the place, but I'm still getting used to this, and I'm trying to get better each time. But I just think cases like this, they're just so sad. So yeah, I just wanted to bring a bit of light to this case. And I mean, no disrespect to little Haleigh and her family or anyone involved in this case. I just want to bring light to it and sort of help her family. And yeah, so if you could share this video, not for me, but for her and her family, and perhaps, you know, perhaps maybe she is still out there. And I'll obviously link like the number for the sheriff's office down below in the description box and everything like that. Obviously this video was more of a more recent case. The case I done before about the Walker family was in the 1900s. This is obviously a little bit more recent. If you'd like more mystery videos from me, then please let me know. I am down to do sort of any type of video, like missing persons, what happened to a family, or what happened to an individual. And I really hope that you are liking this little series, because I'm really enjoying making these videos and I'm loving doing the research. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a bit rambly. I really hope that this video could actually help, and I know that it may not, but I just wanted to shine a bit of light on it. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. So take care, bye.